Here we will build new houses, with red roofs and chimneys where storks will nest, with wide open doors for our dear guests. We'll thank the soil for feeding us, and the sun for warming us, and the fields for reminding us of the green grass of home. With pain and sorrow and joy, we shall remember our country, as we tell our children stories that start like fairy tales. Once upon a time, there was a country. In 1995, this film released as a Serbian-French production, produced in the midst of the Civil War with its Balkan neighbours. This makes this film particularly difficult to pick apart coming from an outsider with a limited knowledge on the conflict. Yet the music, humour and overall chaos that we have fed through this film paints such a clear picture of the Yugoslav identity at the time. In a sense, this film could be classed as a soft propaganda, as the line between satire and mocking the state, or rather endorsing it, is uncertain. The film itself has been cut to a feature-length runtime for enough footage to make up a miniseries. Increasing the strangeness behind its narrative, we are really left with the most important points, which much of it is just kind of happening. In this video, I'll be summarising some of the larger points of the myth of Yugoslavia built by Amir.
Sit back, dim the lights or switch them off if you don't have dimmers, put conventional logic to one side, and enjoy.
The film opens up with a travelling brass band behind a car holding two of our unscrupulous protagonists, Marko and Blackie. Blackie, a black market trader, becomes a member of the early rendition of the Yugoslav Communist Party. As they parade the streets, the two men swing about their carriage, even with Blackie taking shots with his signature P38. You better get used to the pretty laissez-faire gun handling here, it's pretty awful. In the opening, getting a good old look at the audience, breaking the fourth wall. But this is only to serve the narrative, not to stray from its point. But how can we justify this? The juxtaposition of the next scene sets us up for the inner conflict as the audience, alongside the conflict outside the characters. Bombs ring out over Belgrade, with both of our two heroes seemingly distracted. Ivan, Blackie's brother, works in a zoo holding animals from all over the world, from big cats to great apes. The bombs rip apart the place with little surviving. For the first act of a historical drama, a zoo may seem out of place, or, for an absurdist comedy, too harrowing, but it exemplifies the contrast between the two oppositions of dark and light, humour and tragedy trapped in a cage whilst waiting to break out. But this motif of entrapment doesn't exactly end here. Our other protagonist, Natalia, is an actress partaking in a German-controlled theatre. Caught up in the affections of Blackie and Nazi officer Franz, he plans to win her over by interrupting her play. Again, through breaking a literal fourth wall, Amir demonstrates the fragility and self-obsession of fascism through disrupting literal conventions. As Natalia, Blackie and the others make an escape, they both travel to a riverboat, which Tito holds as a rebel stronghold. Marko finally reveals his affections towards Natalia, leading to both parties opening up a love triangle between our central protagonists. Marko and Natalia holds this from Blackie and maintains the lie that there's nothing between the two. As lies, they multiply, and both morally flexible Natalia and Blackie, as the war comes to a climax, choose to hide the truth, not just from their close friends, but to hide the truth from the war's end to all their comrades. As their home falls apart, they both embrace each other in a big lie. Blackie, Ivan, and the rest of them continue to exist within the basement, ignorant to the changing geopolitical landscape. A time-lapse of 20-odd years since the end of the war shows us the victorious communist regime under Tito. Marko and Natalia are injecting themselves into real historical footage, again breaking the fourth wall. The pair are now married, wealthy, and even more powerful than ever before, as they act as figureheads of the Yugoslav fighting spirit. Marko conducts a patriotic speech commemorating his best friend, now with his own statue. However, Blackie is still preserved within the bunker. To them all, the Second World War is still ongoing. This operation is managed by Marco overhanging the threat of a bombing over the bunker with him having control over the air raid siren. This micro-society begins to grow and adapt to the constrained size much like a terrarium. We can see how a simple makeshift lamp powered by a bike can develop into an entire pedal-powered communal shower. Much like a legend, it becomes more embellished and nonsensical over time. The film production reflects the need to continue the myth of Marco and Blackie's heroism during World War II. Exaggerated scenes of retributed violence against the fascists, like Marco's stage to save Natalia playing the damsel in distress, play up their involvements, yet the director isn't satisfied with the realism he wants to portray. The actors bear an exact resemblance to himself and his comrades, shocking Marco. The stretching possibilities with even that exact lookalike is designed to deepen the guilt of Marco's actions. He is a fraud, merely someone who's looking to take advantage of the war, not a hero, and someone who's sharing the exact resemblance of someone who's displaying honour while being a paid actor is exactly the story he wants to tell to society. Yet, a society based on lies can only last as long as they keep up. The bunker holds a wedding for Blackie's son and new wife. Debauchery and tales, led by Natalia, goes sideways as one piece of weaponry they had maintained all these years, the tank, gets set off by Ivan's chimp. In an act of desperation to escape, the chimp escapes through the subterranean tunnels, leaving a gaping hole open for entering the present world. Blackie knows Marco's secret. The guilt consuming the pair climaxes in the two both choosing to destroy the weapons bunker. The parallels of the bombing of the zoo shown before, life encaged, not to be freed from the idea of perpetual threat, but reduced to ashes by those who should be treating them with mercy. Blackie and his son escape the factory into a great expanse of water, enjoying their new freedom. The two both encroach upon the set of the film mentioned earlier. The director is trying to do a scene with Blackie's counterpart, but not really feeling the scene. However, with some intervention by the real Blackie killing Franz's counterpart, the emotion he wanted has been captured. Like the play beforehand, the murder disrupts the production, yet the violent authenticity is captured. The next day, Blackie's son goes missing. While searching for him, diving into the lake, he gets caught into a fishing net. We can understand what this encapsulation means until Tito is dead, and Yugoslavia is dying. A montage follows the larger cities of the country mourning the man. Next we see Ivan grasping tight onto a tree on the premises of a mental institution in Germany. It's New Year, and yet Ivan doesn't seem to have much resolutions beside returning to his home of Yugoslavia. After all, how could the Germans be celebrating if they didn't win the war? Nothing adds up to him above ground. The doctor that takes him out knows of Ivan's victimhood, and reveals his brother and her lover both constructed a lie to keep them in the dark. Yugoslavia were victors in defeating fascism, yet the idea of this fight had to continue. For the sake of its collective belief in its nation, all people would rediscover the underlying ethnic, religious and cultural tensions ready to surface from the prolonged periods of control from Western and Eastern forces. Ivan, disgusted by his deception, returns them to the tunnels, finding his old companion Sonny along the way. He resurfaces in Serbia, seeing something similar to the conflict he may have been imagining in the bunker for the last 20 years. We see both Blackie, now a warmongering general, and Marco as an arms dealer on the opposite sides. Ivan comes across Blackie making this nefarious deal, whacking him with his walking stick. Ivan tries to beat the man to death. Thinking he has killed his brother, Ivan takes his own life. A war is no war until a brother kills his own brother. Natalia returns to fragile Marco. Distraught, she clings to it. One of Blackie's soldiers tries to separate Natalia from Marco, yet she returns. The soldier returns with a gasoline can. He shoots the pair, and then sets them aflame. Blackie returns to the bunker. A well nearby shows us his son. He is calling him in. Blackie returns to the water, and so does everyone. They return to the land to party, and Yugoslavia breaks off the land and travels into eternity. safe to say that this is a homage to Yugoslavia's brief yet significant chapter in the history of the Balkans. Proud of its communist principles, yet rife with corruption, an undemocratic state holding people of all kinds in unity, with a violent heart, yet always in the mood for a party. The idiosyncrasies of Yugoslavia is both ripe for comedy and serious discussion, but Amir understands it's important not to separate the two, to understand the rise and eventual implosion of the nation. Thanks for watching.